Are you looking for a craft kit guaranteed to spark some creativity? Well, I've got a craft kit that's easy and quick. You might think I'm just waxing eloquent, but I can't contain my excitement. It's really lit a fire in me, and the end result is sure to brighten your day. Welcome to my channel. I am so glad to have you here. My name's Amanda, and you're watching Crafters Autonomous. I should apologize for the terrible puns, but I am genuinely excited about the product I'm going to share today. Recently, Village Craft and Candle reached out to me seeing if I wanted to test one of their candle making kits, and that's what we're going to look at today. If you're not familiar with them, Village Craft and Candle is a Canadian-based company dedicated to providing high-quality supplies for crafters, and that can be crafters who are just passionate hobbyists to growing entrepreneurs. They're best known for their wide selection of premium candle making supplies, and they also offer expertly curated supplies for bath, body, and fragrance creations. With a focus on community, education, and accessible crafting, they've established themselves as a trusted partner for creators to elevate their handmade products and grow their brands. So thank you so much to Village Craft and Candle for sending me this kit and for sponsoring this video. While I did receive the kit free of charge in exchange for making this review video, as always, these opinions are my own. I'm going to share my honest thoughts and experience using this kit, and I'll cover the good and the bad. And I only share products that I myself actually like using, so that's a little bit of a spoiler that I was very happy with this kit. All right, so with that all out of the way, let's dive into what the kit has to offer. The kit I received is the Soy Candle Starter Kit LUX. This kit contains everything you need to make 6 fragrant candles, plus you'll have a couple of pounds of the soy coconut wax left over. Firstly, when the kit arrived, I thought the packaging was absolutely beautiful. I am obsessed with how nicely and cleanly it was packed. What I mean by that is I don't generally like packaging that comes with so much extra clutter where I'm just throwing away flyers and extra stuffing. This kit was packed very securely and elegantly without excess. The list you've seen popping up on screen gives a more detailed overview of what all the kit includes. And they also include an instruction card in the kit. The bag of wax itself comes with additional instructions and information, and their website has blog articles, and they also have a YouTube channel if you want to do any more research on the candle making process. Also on the instructions card, there's a $10 off coupon for your next purchase, so make sure you hang on to that card. So while this kit includes all the materials needed to make candles, it does not include the equipment, so there are some extra things you will need to have on hand. You will want a way to measure the wax, and I went with a food scale. You'll also need a heat source for melting the wax. I'll show melting the wax on both a stove and in the microwave, and you might need some extra pots and dishes for that. A third essential item you will want is a thermometer. And lastly, you will need some kind of stir stick to stir the wax as it melts. For my first attempt at using the kit, I decided to go with the stove method and used a bit of a double boiler setup. I decided to make 2 candles at once since that's what the instructions share the ratio of fragrance and wax for. And I went with the neon scent for these first 2. That was my absolute favorite scent that was included. For the double boiler method, I filled a pot about a third of the way with water, set it on the stove, and brought it to a low boil. Then you pour the measured out beads into the candle pour pot, place the candle pour pot that came with the kit into the boiling pot of water, and your wax will start melting down. Now when I weighed out my wax, I used a different container to weigh it out. I should have just used the pour pot. I'm already going to be filling the pour pot with wax while I melt things down, and it's the right size to melt down enough wax to make 2 candles. Don't forget that when you're measuring your wax to first tare the scale while your container is sitting on it, so you're only weighing the wax and not also weighing the container you're measuring in. So when it came time to melting the wax, I found that it was a very simple and efficient process, since the wax comes in pellet form and melts down really easily, and I just kept stirring it as needed to break up any chunks. If you're using a double boiler method on the stovetop like I'm doing, you do want to be careful about the heat from the boiling water itself. Feel free to adjust the temperature as needed because as that water starts to boil, the steam can get pretty hot and you obviously don't want to burn your hands on the steam. With the pour pot that came with the kit, I wasn't sure if the plastic handle could touch the hot pot that I was using to boil the water, so I used a hot pad to protect it. However, after the fact, I saw in some of their videos on their YouTube channel that it is okay if the handle is touching a pot, and it makes sense because the pot is designed for melting wax. Once the wax reached the recommended temperature, I took it off the heat and let it cool to the temperature needed to add the fragrance. I took advantage of that cooling time to add the wicks to my clean and dry candle jars. You do want to center the wicks as best you are able because it will help for a more even burn, and I kind of let myself down with my not very centered placement of the wicks. But that is okay, you don't have to be perfect with this process. My candles still turned out wonderful. If you can't fit your hand down in the jar very well, you can use a stiff straw and press the little wick sticker thingy onto the bottom just to make sure it's secure. I had to be patient, but it didn't take that long for the wax to cool to the temperature where I could add the fragrance, and I stirred that in for about a minute. And at this point, I was mostly done with the candle making process. All I had to do was pour it into my jars. Once the wax was poured into the jars, I taped a couple straws together that I set over top of the wick to keep it centered while the candle cooled. And now this is the worst step of the whole process, and that is having patience. You have to have patience to let the candles cool all the way, and then you also want to let them cure before you burn them. We'll talk more about that and about burning the candles in a little bit. If you don't want to use a stovetop double boiler method, you do have the option to microwave the wax. The process is identical to what we did on the stove, just instead of using the stove to melt the wax, we use the microwave to melt the wax. This means two important things. One, we cannot use the pour pot in the microwave. You want to use something that is microwave safe. I went with a large glass measuring cup to melt the wax in. Secondly, you want to go slowly with this process. I microwaved at 30-second intervals and it seemed like not much was happening, but then once it started to melt, it was like bam, it was melting. So at that point, I dropped down to like 15 and 20-second intervals just to make sure I didn't scorch the wax. After microwaving it each time, I would check and stir the wax. Once the wax was completely melted, I found that it was right about the temperature that we needed to heat it to. And then from there, it was the same process of letting it cool before adding fragrance and then pouring it into the candle jars. And then I did a third thing while I was making the candles, and that was I did some experimenting. And I did that because I'm me and I'm a crafter and I'm just extra like that. When I did the microwave candles, I did a blend of two of the other fragrances. I did half Island Hibiscus and half Days, which were the other two scents I received. I don't know if that's a thing you're supposed to do or not, but I tried it because I just was having fun with it. As I mentioned earlier, you will have about 2 pounds of wax left over. So again, I went into my next experimenting thing and said, I want to try some essential oils. This I completely made up. I did a little bit of Googling and I added the most random assortment of essential oils. But with the essential oil attempt of making candles, I ended up with 5 little jar candles. So that was my candle making process. I then had to let them sit and trim the wicks before I could burn them. After going through the experience of making the candles, I was ready to sit down and assess what I liked about the kit and what I didn't like about the kit. So let's start by looking at the pros, the things that I really liked about this kit. And the first thing that comes to mind is this kit was so much fun. When I was planning the video, I was initially going to film making 3 of the candles, and then I'd be able to make more candles in the future. Yeah, that didn't happen. I made the first 2, and then I made 2 more, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep going, and so I made all 6, and then I also made 5 extra little candles because I was playing around with adding essential oils. For me, the process was a little bit slower simply because I was filming, but it really wasn't that long or laborious of a process. This kit is something that you can knock out pretty quickly, or you can stretch the project out and make it last an afternoon. A second thing I really liked about this kit was it was really easy to use. It included step-by-step instructions, and even though I didn't really know what I was doing, I was able to successfully make some candles. And I think what I'm really meaning when I say the kit was easy to use is the kit gave me confidence that I would be able to successfully make my own candles. And part of that confidence comes from the third thing I like about this kit, and that is it includes everything you need. You don't have to do any of the guesswork. You don't have to piecemeal things together to make your candles. Everything is already designed to work together. Because candle making might seem like a really simple process. You melt wax, you add scents, you pour them into jars and let them cool. But in actuality, there is a lot of chemistry and physics behind making candles. The type of wick you use will change how your candle burns. If you're using one wax or another, that can change how scents take. The size of the jar can determine the size of the wick, and there's all these little details that come together to make a candle that burns well. With this kit, I didn't have to do any of the research to make sure that my wick was the right type and my wax was the right type. It was just all already there together for me. The fourth pro of this kit is the pour pot. Oh my gosh, I loved having that included in the kit. It was so easy to set up for using the double boiler method. It could fit 2 candles worth of wax at a time, which was great because the instructions gave the ratio of wax to fragrance for making 2 candles at once, and it was very easy to pour the wax out of it into the candle jars. In the past, when I have made candles, I have set up a double boiler method where I had a pot of boiling water and then I placed a measuring cup into it. However, the measuring cup, it's hard to hook it on the side of the pot. It's floating, the measuring jar handle gets hot, and it's just frustrating. With the pour pot, I didn't have to worry about any of that. It fit really well inside my other pot. It was nice and tall, so I could balance it really well. I wasn't concerned about it dumping over or floating away inside the boiling water pot. And I also found it really nice to have a dedicated vessel for making wax. And the last note on the pour pot is it actually didn't get that hot. Now, I am not recommending that you touch the pour pot while it's very hot, but I took one for the team and I tested it out. It started unintentionally because I bumped it, and then I was like, let me test this out. And I was able to safely touch the pot without burning myself. Again, don't intentionally touch the hot pour pot, but I am just letting you know that I do like that it doesn't get super hot. A fifth thing I liked about this kit, and really I think it's one of the selling points of Village Craft and Candle as a company, was the fragrances. Oh my gosh, y'all. My room has smelled heavenly with these candles sitting in there. When I was making the candles, the kitchen smelled amazing. Even just opening the package, there was a soft scent of the fragrances. Fabulous, I love it. And something else that I really like about these fragrances that were included is they have very natural and light scents to them. I sometimes burn candles from Bath & Body Works or like a Yankee candle, and while those candles have their place for me personally, I find those brands to be extremely overpoweringly fragrant. And in addition, a lot of them have this perfumey undertone that really bothers my allergies and gives me a headache at times. The Village Craft and Candle fragrances that I got to use in this kit were not overpowering. They didn't have that perfumey note to them that often gives me headaches. And plus, they just smelled fabulous. A sixth thing I liked about this kit is I felt like I was getting quality materials. And that includes even down to things like the jars. They're just nice, classy candle jars. My personal favorite is the frosted white clearish jars. I think those are so pretty. My kit also came with the matte black, which is just such a crisp, polished looking candle holder. There's also this amber color, and I honestly was like, yeah, I don't think that's really my style, but now that the candle's in there, I think it looks so cute, and I love the way it looks and the way the jar lights up when the candle's burning. The wax itself is nice. The wicks seem to come pre-dipped in wax, which saves a step of the process for me and makes the wicks burn better. And as I mentioned, they have very nice fragrances. The seventh thing I liked about the kit, and it's kind of an important one, is I was really happy with the end results. I had a few questions about the candles, and so I reached out to my contact at Village Craft and Candle, and they gave me a little bit more information. First of all, I was wanting to completely burn down one of these candles before making this video so I can talk about the burn time and things like that. However, these candles have some longevity to them. I've burned most of them for at least 4 hours at this point. Some of them I've burned for like 10 or 12 hours. And y'all, it has not burned up that much of the wax, which I love. I like long burning candles. I like getting my money's worth and my usage out of candles. When it comes to burning, there are some things you want to be mindful of. First off, you don't want to go beyond a 4-hour burn time. A lot of candles have a maximum burn time for a variety of reasons. Some of it is safety, so you don't want to exceed that max 4-hour burn time with these candles. On the flip side, however, you do want to burn these candles for a pretty long time when you light them. With most jar candles, when you light it, you want to let the entire top surface of the wax melt before you put the candle out, because that will prevent the candle from tunneling. And I found that it can take nearly up to that 4 hours for it to reach that point, but personally, I kind of like burning candles for a long time when I light one. Now, another part of the end result is the fragrance. I'm going to put a pin in that for now. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on about the fragrance when the candles are burning. The eighth thing is I have found this kit to be a very versatile product. Meaning there are so many applications for a candle kit and so many different reasons to buy one. One of the first things that came to my mind was using this kit for gifting. And yes, of course, you can gift the candles themselves, but you don't have to stop there. The kit itself would make a fabulous gift, but the way you can use this as a gift could be as an experience, meaning the gift is doing an activity with someone you care about. This would be a great kit if you want to, say, have a candle making night with friends, Recently, we had Mother's Day here in the US, so a kit like this could be great for making with your mother on Mother's Day or on her birthday or something like that. So gifting is one application of the kit. Another is if you just want a one and done candle making experience, meaning you decide, hey, I just want to make some candles. It's not going to become a hobby. I don't want to stock up on a bunch of supplies. This is a great option because you don't have to piecemeal all the things you need. You make your 6 candles, you can be done with candle making and go on with your life. But if you're not sure if you want candle making to be a one-time thing or if it's going to become a new hobby, this kit is great for hobbyists like me because it's an awesome intro into candle making, as well as a great way to get more familiar with some of the products that Village Craft and Candle sells. Now, personally, I don't see candle making becoming some new big hobby for me. However, I did have a lot of fun. And likely in the future, once these burn down and I'm ready to make some more candles, I'll be ordering from Village Craft and Candle again. And a final application of this kit is it's also great for entrepreneurs or individuals working to grow their candle making business. Maybe you're thinking about starting a candle making business. This is a great way to get your feet wet. It's also a great way to test out products to see if you want to use, say, fragrances from Village Craft and Candle or the waxes they have to offer. And the last thing I want to talk about with this kit is I personally think that the price is very reasonable. The kit runs for about $70, and since you make 6 candles from the kit, that works out to about $11.67 per candle. There is a caveat to that though. Shipping cost will increase the total price spent on the product. I know y'all are located all over the place, so that's a very subjective variable depending on your location. To ship to my location, it would work out to be $96 for the kit and for shipping. That means each of the 6 candles works out to about $16. Honestly, I don't think that's bad or unreasonable, especially given the long burn time of each candle. And when considering the price point with these kits, you really have to consider that you're not just paying for a candle. You are paying for an activity that is an experience, and really you're paying for what's essentially a candle making course. This isn't you go to the store and you buy candle making supplies and now you're on your own and just have to make it up and figure it out as you go. This comes with instructions, it has everything you need, and really it's like a mini introductory course to candle making. So keep in mind that the price per candle isn't just for an end product, it's for the whole process of getting to the end product. Also with the price point, I think it's a very fair price given that you can control what goes into the candles versus burning something from the store and having no idea what you're releasing. And last thing with the price point is you do have some extra wax left over, so I think that's kind of nice because you have the opportunity to make more candles. So those are my pros about the kit. I clearly like a lot of things about it. However, there are some cons that I do want to talk about. The first is an extremely small nitpicky thing, but I think it would have been really nice if the kit had included a stir stick. I decided to use popsicle sticks to stir my wax while it was melting. I couldn't find my longer ones, but the popsicle stick worked pretty well. Since a stir stick could be something like a long popsicle stick, I think that would have been a really nice touch to add to the kit, especially since it's such a small thing, it could very easily be fit into the packaging. A second con of this kit is you are not able to pick the scents you receive, and the scents you receive are going to be a bit of a mystery. These kits come with 3 scents, and the 3 scents will always be selected from their best-selling fragrances. You don't need to worry about them going, oh, we've got an overstock on this terrible selling fragrance. Yeah, we'll throw it in the kit. That's not going to happen. The scents you get are going to be really great. With that said, the particular 3 scents will change over time and are not a set thing. When I talked with Village Craft and Candle, they said that each time they make a batch of kits, every kit in that batch will have the same 3 fragrances chosen from their best sellers. However, the next batch of kits might have 3 different fragrances. So keep that in mind that you're not going to know for sure what fragrances you will receive, and I think it'd be really great if you could pick your own fragrances. However, it's a logistic nightmare for the company and something that's just not feasible. So that's not an option now and doesn't look like it'll be an option in the future. They do sell sampler kits of fragrances, so that is something you could add to your order if you want to try specific scents. A third downside of this kit is when it comes to cleanup. Now, I need to make the caveat that anytime you're making candles, you're going to have cleanup. So it's not that I think this particular kit is any messier or harder to clean up than any other candle. However, since this is a starter kit, I think it would have been really nice if the kit had included additional information, tips and tricks, and instructions on how to clean up after you're done making candles. I especially think that would be nice because a starter kit, one of the main audiences for that is going to be beginners and noobs like myself. I found myself with a little bit of a mess when I was done. I should have put something down to protect my work surface area. And then I had multiple containers that had a lot of wax left in them. To clean things up, I ended up pouring boiling water into each of my containers, which melted the wax and let it float to the top and harden. And then once it had cooled, I poured it through a paper towel so the water could go down the drain, but the wax would be caught in the paper towel. I reached out to Village Craft and Candle to see if they had any additional advice on cleanup, and they recommended firstly, try to wipe up any wax spills while it's still warm. Obviously don't wipe it up if the wax is burning hot, but wiping it up before it's cooled completely does make it easier to clean up, and I kind of discovered that as I was going through the process. And a second thing they talk about is once you get as much of the wax cleaned off as you can use soap to break down the residual wax. The last con of this particular kit has to do with the scent cast or scent throw. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but essentially how well, when the candle is burning, does it spread the scent. As I repeatedly mentioned, the fragrances smell phenomenal. However, when I first started burning the candles, I'll be honest, I was hoping it would be a little bit stronger of a fragrance than what I found it to be. Now, scent throw preferences are going to be a very personal thing. I am used to burning candles from brands like Bath & Body Works, and those can be really overpowering and intense scents. Which honestly, for me, I find that to be too much, so I do like that the scents are not an overwhelming, powerful scent. But I have found myself wishing it were just a little bit stronger. The instruction card said to wait 3 to 4 days before burning the candle to allow the scent to really cure, and that will increase the scent throw. I waited 3 days and started burning my candles. When I asked Village Craft and Candle about this, they did mention that it's best to wait for about 2 weeks to let the candle cure if you want to get maximum scent throw. I am on day 8 of burning the candles, and I have noticed that the longer I've waited to burn the candles, the scent has been stronger. So with all that said, as far as the scent throw goes, it very well could just be a personal preference and what I'm used to, and it could also be a matter of not letting the candle sit for long enough before burning. I did follow the instructions in the kit, so I wish the instructions in the kit mentioned that you'll get the best results if you wait 2 weeks versus recommending waiting just 3 or 4 days. After reflecting on my experience making the candles and considering what I liked and what I didn't like, my end conclusion is I do really like this candle starter kit. I was honestly surprised at how much fun I had with this. I had a blast. I really enjoyed the process. And I think one of the biggest reasons why I found using this kit to be so much fun was because everything was already curated for me. The hard work was already done. I didn't have to do any decision making. There was no uncertainty. Everything was just provided for me to have a great time. My main complaint with the kit would be the scent when it is burning. I do wish it were just a smidge stronger, which the scent when a candle is burning is a pretty significant part of the candle. However, for me personally, I'm still quite satisfied with the candles I ended up with because even if I'm not burning them, if I just let them sit, the room smells amazing. Which sure, it's fun to burn candles, but also like just leaving them sit out and smelling them, wonderful. And it's worth mentioning again that it might just be a matter of needing to wait longer and having a little bit more patience to get best results. Burning or not, when I do smell the candles, I think the fragrances are exquisite, and I don't have to worry about any kind of overpowering perfume fragrances that might give me a headache. I hope this answers any questions you might have about Village Craft and Candle's starter kit. If you try this kit or if you've used other products from Village Craft and Candle, I'd love to know what your experience has been. If you want to order this kit or anything else from Village Craft and Candle, check out the description box where I have my affiliate link and also a coupon so you can save a little bit of money. Alright, I'm gonna sit here and enjoy the wonderful scent of my candles. It smells so good in here right now, and I will see y'all in my next video. Happy crafting!